Okay, so what if I told you that your heart has its own brain? Today, we're diving into a discovery that connects brand new science with some seriously ancient wisdom. And it turns out the heart does a whole lot more than just pump blood. Let's get into it.
You know, we throw around phrases like heartbroken or follow your heart all the time. We just assume they're metaphors, right? The accepted wisdom is that our brain does all the heavy lifting, the thinking, the reasoning, and the heart is just this simple biological pump. But what if that's not the whole story?
Well, that whole idea got completely flipped on its head back in 1991. A groundbreaking discovery revealed something incredible. The heart has what scientists literally call a little brain of its own.
To really get what this means, let's just start with a number. 40,000. What on earth is so special about that number?
Well, that is the number of specialized neurons, brain cells, found inside the human heart. And these aren't just random cells. They form this super complex network that's so sophisticated it's earned the nickname the heart's little brain. Officially, it's called the intrinsic cardiac nervous system, and its discovery basically launched an entire new field of science.
And that field? It's called neurocardiology. It's been around since 1991, and its whole purpose is to figure out this incredible connection between our heart and our brain. And honestly, what they've been finding is pretty mind-blowing.
So get this, these 40,000 neurons, they're not just sitting there passing messages along. This little brain in your heart can actually work independently from the one in your head. It can sense things, it can feel, it can even remember and process information. I mean, essentially, your heart kind of has a mind of its own.
Okay, so the heart's got this incredible capability, right? How does it actually use it? Well, it's locked in this constant back and forth conversation with your brain. But the way this conversation works is probably the opposite of what you think. You know, we all kind of picture the brain as this big command center barking orders down to the heart. But the research shows it's actually the other way around. It's wild. The heart sends way more information up to the brain than the brain sends down to the heart. And that influences everything from how we see the world to how we feel.
Let me give you a really practical example of how this works. When your heart is coherent, when its rhythm is calm and steady, it sends a signal to your brain that says everything's cool. And that leads to clearer thinking, better decisions. But when you're stressed and your heart's rhythm is all chaotic, it can actually trigger something called cortical inhibition that literally shuts down parts of your brain responsible for reasoning. So the state of your heart directly affects how well you can think.
And honestly, it might go even deeper than that. Now, this isn't hard scientific fact, yet, but there are all these fascinating stories from heart transplant patients who suddenly start craving foods their donor loved or develop new personality traits. It suggests that the heart might be storing information in ways we're just now starting to imagine.
Okay, so we have this super modern, cutting-edge science from just a few decades ago. But here's where things get really interesting. What if this whole idea of a heart that thinks and feels isn't new at all? What if this was all described with shocking accuracy thousands of years ago?
Take a look at this verse. It comes from the Quran from about 1400 years ago. And notice what it's asking. It doesn't ask if people have brains to reason with. It asks if they have hearts by which to reason. And that last Arabic word is the key to the whole thing.
The word is yaqiluna. Now in Arabic, this isn't some vague, poetic word for feeling. No, it's a very specific cognitive term. It means to reason, to comprehend, to logically connect ideas. And this ancient text assigns that very specific function directly to the heart.
So, what do we do with this, right? On one hand, we've got 21st century neurocardiology, and on the other, a 1400-year-old text. And they seem to be saying something that's, well, remarkably similar. So how do we put these two worlds together? Now, a skeptic would make a fair point. They'd say, look, lots of ancient cultures thought the heart was the center of intelligence. Your heart beats faster when you get excited. It's just old-school anatomy. But the modern synthesis offers a much more interesting view. The text isn't saying the brain does nothing. It's describing a partnership. And this is the key. Neurocardiology completely backs up the main idea that the heart processes information that is absolutely vital for our ability to reason.
And this brings us to a conclusion that is just stunning when you really think about it. For more than 100 years, the peak of modern science said the heart was nothing more than a simple pump. And yet, it turns out this ancient text was describing the heart in a way that was actually more biologically accurate than the established science of its time.
So, all of this really pushes us toward a whole new way of looking at ourselves.
This isn't just some fun science fact. It could fundamentally change how we think about our own intuition, our emotions, and even our intelligence.
If there's one thing you take away from all this, let it be this. The heart isn't just a pump, it's a processor. Modern science has a name for it, the intrinsic cardiac nervous system. An ancient text had a name for it too, the heart that reasons. They're both pointing to the same profound truth.
And that leaves us with one final, pretty deep question to think about. If your heart has its own way of sensing, feeling, and understanding the world, if your heart can actually reason, what has it been trying to tell you that you've been ignoring?